I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
And I'm all out of bubblegum!
Astro Radio Z is a horror, cult, exploitation film podcast by filmmakers, critics, musicians, journalists, and fans for the film obsessed. Here is your host, Derek Carey.
It's 2018, folks, and I hope you have your roundhouse kicking feet ready, because we're here to talk about American Ninja 1 and 2.
The sacred art of the ninja has been guarded in the East.
Remember the day I found you.
Now, it has come to the West.
Remember what is hidden deep in your mind.
He is the only soldier.
Date of birth unknown.
The only American.
Who is he?
Who is capable of defeating the secret Black Star Army. The mission to hijack a U.S. military arsenal.
Your destiny, my son, awaits you.
The adventure. The confrontation. The code.
I will honor the code, Father.
The invasion. The final hour. The deadliest art of the Orient is now in the hands of an American warrior.
If you guys are new to Astro Radio Z, let me give you a little history lesson to start 2018. Every year, we pick a long-running series of films, be it the Witchcraft series, which had 16 movies, Vice Academy, which had 6 movies, Howling, which had 8, and Puppet Master, which more than likely will have 67 movies. We start each of our years off by having a series of episodes where we run through the entire franchise. And this year, you guys on the Astro Radio Z Facebook group decided we were going to break from the normal exploitation, horror, and cult film mold and watch some chop-socky, racist, American Djangoistic nonsense with American Ninja 1 through 5. How there's 5 American Ninja movies, I'll never fucking be able to tell you. I wasn't even aware there were 5 American Ninja movies until late last year. You guys picked these. So that's what we're going to be talking about here for the next 3 months, 1 episode a month. We're going to be talking about American Ninja 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And with me, as all of my longtime listeners know, is a huge group of guys. This is the biggest sausage fest you're going to hear on a podcast probably this month. Sausage. But they're back. We have Daniel Edenfield of the Nightkeep. Say hello, people.
Hello, people.
Glenn Bittner, the big fucking deal, has come back. It seems like he only comes back for the goddamn franchise episodes anymore. But Glenn, I am so happy to have you back. Actually, Glenn, you were on the most listened to podcast of last year, the cop movie episode. So,
well, look at that.
Maybe it wasn't about the topic. It was you. They knew you were on it.
That could be, or just I know what's shit and I avoid it.
I thank you for letting me know every other episode of my podcast last year was shit.
Yeah.
Moving on, Mark the movie man, of course, is here. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing okay. Wait, American Ninja. I thought this was Puppet Master Axis Termination.
Shut the fuck up, Mark the movie man! That make me yell and scream at the beginning of my goddamn podcast. I just started this motherfucker. Next is Scott Davis. He has come back to the show. We couldn't do a franchise without him because every single year we need to let him know how fucking awful the Vice Academy movies are. So Scott Davis, thanks for coming on. And man, those Vice Academy movies just fucking suck a dick, don't they?
I love their work.
Oh, last but not least, you heard his sultry tones on the last episode last year. My de facto agent in Baltimore, Mr. Seth Powlin of celluloidterror.com. Seth, say hello to the peoples.
Hi.
And we're not going to fuck around anymore here, folks. We're going to get to the point, as one of my various listeners told me. What, Scott Davis? You want to interrupt me? You go right ahead, interrupt my podcast, Scott Davis.
I thought I should inject a couple of show tunes. What the fuck?
Okay, well, let's hear this amazing voice you have. Please entertain the listeners.
Not when I'm this sober. No.
The beach is alive with the sound of ninjas.
With that, folks, we're going to start talking about Sam Furstenberg's American Ninja, made in 1985.
He is the only soldier
Who is he?
who is capable of defeating the secret Black Star Army. A soldier who has become a master ninja.
Your destiny, my son, awaits you.
The deadliest art of the Orient is now in the hands of an American ninja.
If you aren't familiar with the fine name and fine work of Sam Furstenberg, he is the director of such fine pieces of cinema, such as Sho Kosugi's Revenge of the Ninja, Ninja 3, The Domination, Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo, Cyborg Cop 1 and 2, which we talked about on that Cop episode that I made reference to about with Glenn before, and Delta Force 3, amongst tons of other schlocky, shitty 80s canon action films. And I think before we really get into this movie, we need to talk first about the company that produced these films, Canon Films. And Scott, I always like leaving this kind of thing up to you because you are a pure encyclopedia of exploitation films. So why don't you talk to me a little bit about your knowledge about the Canon Group and kind of some of the history surrounding how they made stuff like American Ninja and American Ninja 2.
Oh God. Okay, let me think if I can think of how this works. The Canon Group was originally founded, but it was the one we know was purchased by a couple of Israeli producers named Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus. And these guys were like old style movie moguls. They just wanted to make big movies, and they wanted to make films that tried to be big movies, but wound up just looking like big exploitation movies. And what they would do is they would find whatever trend was big and they would go with it. Breakdancing, they went with it and they came out with the break-in movies. They tried to capitalize on every toy thing, and one of the big things that they did, one of the first hits, at least in the 80s here, was Enter the Ninja. And at this point, it's hard to understand, but most people didn't know what a ninja was. So that's why all these movies well into the 80s, you have always some Yahoo there who says, ninja, what's that? You know, when of course every kid watching it's like what? You don't know what a ninja is? Because these movies like kind of brought that into the American consciousness. Of course, these were really unrealistic, Anglicanized ninjas. And the best, of course, after the original Ninja trilogy folds with the Sho Kosugi, we have American Ninja, and it's like this white James Dean spiked hair guy who also happens to be a ninja. And these films are insanely violent, and but wind up being like harmless, silly comic book of adventures, so that you don't notice that the bodies are falling in the triple digits because it's just so goofy. And that's kind of became the raison d'etre of canon. They had the dark action movies with Charles Bronson, and then they had the Rambo ripoff action movies with Chuck Norris, and they had the goofy American Ninja with Michael Dudikoff.
I remember back in the 80s gobbling this stuff up. Canon, for the most part, produced a lot of B-grade action flicks, as Scott had alluded to. Now, Dan, you were one of the people that really championed that we were going to do these movies this year. Now, where did you start finding the love for shitty ninja movies?
Probably the playground of my school. I make it no secret because it comes up all the time. It was, I'm born in the 80s. I'm an 80 kid, 80s, blah, 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 blah. But it is, that is the story. Nintendo came out and it hit the States, in 85. I got my NES in 1987. American Ninja, just like every other, it's one of those when you watch Canon films, when you see the Canon logo splash at the beginning, you're in for a good time. And on the playground, remember, this American Ninja was one of those movies that was always mentioned in reverence. And it was, not necessarily hushed tones.
Reverence?
Yeah, it was one of those, it's like American Ninja, you want to be badass like Van Damme, or you want to be like that guy like an American Ninja, or you want to be like Schwarzenegger, And it was one of those movies that I honestly don't think people nowadays know just how much they owe to the American Ninja series. Just from what it did. You cannot play a fucking AAA video game nowadays that does not owe something to American Ninja. Be it multicolored bad guys from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, be it genetic manipulation like in Metal Gear or Double Dragon, or maybe even Ninja Gaiden. It all owes it to American Ninja. And I guess it's just because I was a kid and we were always talking about, wouldn't it be cool if you could do this, or you could do that, or, who would kick whose ass? Van Damme, who would kick Michael Dudikoff's ass and be like, yeah, he would. No, he wouldn't. Well, yeah, but then Schwarzenegger would come out and kick his ass and stuff. Yeah, it's just playground fodder that it's only just enhanced by the fact that your little kid's out watching movies about ninjas kicking people in the face. Derek, you've said it multiple times. We can sit there. You give me a movie, 90 minutes of Van Damme kicking somebody in the face, and I'm going to watch it.
Oh, yeah, I can watch that shit.
You name a movie, American Ninja, and you show me on the cover, you got a ninja and a dude, like an army dude with a katana aiming at the other ninja, and they're fighting. Okay, I'm going to watch it.
I'm easy.
Exactly. Look, I'm
a man of simple pleasures, Daniel.
Beautifully illustrated in the title, American Ninja. Well, hot damn. Okay, let's watch this.
I actually started watching ninja movies at a far younger age before this stuff came out. And when I finally started seeing stuff like, say, Revenge of the Ninja or Enter the Ninja, and you saw all those multicolored ninjas, like the white and the yellow and the red ninjas. It always threw back to the Godfrey Ho movies. And if you aren't familiar with Godfrey Ho, he was a schlockmeister from Asia that literally took hundreds of movies, recut them, and threw the most god-awful ninja, most impractical ninja outfits. Like, on what planet would a neon blue ninja work? Anywhere.
This planet, buddy.
A neon yellow.
Watch it.
These ninjas stuck out all over the place. Or let's talk about Franco Nero in Enter the Ninja, where he's wearing a white ninja outfit, and you can clearly see his full fucking mustache.
Now, to be fair, these ninjas could have blended in perfectly if they were at a breakdancing competition. So maybe they just got the sets mixed up.
I always loved it. I think it was funny. It was ridiculous. It was fantastical. Seth, when you think of these weird, like, multicolored ninjas and all these, like Godfrey Ho and Shokasugi movies and stuff like that, were you ever into this stuff when you were younger? Did you, like, grow up and cut your teeth on some action films with these really shitty ninja movies?
Oh, yeah. I grew up late 80s, into the early 90s watching this stuff on, cable whenever it would come on. This and cheesy sci-fi like Godzilla would always run back to back to back. So entire weekends would spent with this crap. And like Dan said, it reminded me of old beat 'em up Nintendo games, especially with Ninja Turtles and, you know, the Foot Clan always having the different colored uniforms. And going back, it really hit me watching it this weekend. It's like, man, those ninjas are training, and every one of them is at a different level of being a ninja, because what asshole is running around in a yellow ninja suit? He's got to be an early ninja, you know?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Seth. Another game, and it just dawned because I made a list of games that owe this. Shinobi.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Please continue, Seth. I had to mention Shinobi.
I will allow a Shinobi interruption anytime because that was fantastic, especially 3.
Fuck yeah.
Just moving on. The whole thing felt like a beat 'em up video game, which really struck me now more than it did when I was playing them. But it all just comes together in this big childhood mishmash of cheese and action, and it was great. It's what kids should have fun with, because it's not overly gory or exploitative with nudity and bloodshed and everything. It's just kind of good, wholesome American ninja fun.
Jingoistic nonsense. That's the vast majority of what American Ninja is. The movie we're going to be talking about tonight, American Ninja, to start this off with, stars Mr. Michael Dudikoff, who the vast majority of my listening audience should know who he is. I mean, he was in tons and tons of schlocky action flicks, never really made it into the big time. I mean, he may have had one-off roles here and there, but the majority of his stuff was direct to video and direct to like Cinemax and late night cable type stuff. And Steve James, who you should know from The Warriors and Vigilante, and I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, and a whole slew of blaxploitation flicks. These two guys are complete badasses, and the movie that they get to star in, the plot synopsis goes as follows, folks.
Joe Armstrong, an orphaned drifter with little respect for much other than martial arts, finds himself on an American army base in the Philippines after a judge gives him a choice of enlistment or prison. On one of his first missions driving a convoy, his platoon is attacked by a group of rebels who try to steal the weapons the platoon is transporting and kidnap the base colonel's daughter.
Mark, let's start this off right, and let's start talking about let's get into this movie real quick here. We got the movie starts off, and Julie Arnson, who was, if you guys remember, the girl who wants to get laid by her boyfriend in Friday the 13th Part 4. Instead, Jason skewers her through a life raft. Always had a crush on her ever since I saw Friday the 13th Part 4. She pops up in this thing as a colonel's daughter who needs to be escorted away from the base, in which, for some reason, there's this really intense hacky sack tournament going on between a bunch of the army dudes. Now, Mark, what did you think when the movie started and you have Michael Dudikoff, the obvious protagonist, the American ninja, the man with the smallest face in this entire movie? He doesn't speak for almost like 12 minutes of this movie. He's sitting there working on a car, and you got these dudes playing hacky sack and being dicks to them. What did you think about this guy that was just totally busting his balls?
What's his problem?
I don't know. He's a new guy. He just got here yesterday. Excuse me. Throw me the bag, then you can go back to sleep, okay?
Mark, what'd you think of these guys and how they were treating the Dudikoff?
Oh, they were riding the Dudikoff, but he was just playing it cool. Dudikoff is like one of the first people you see, and he's just all silent. So you're like, oh, that's the American Ninja, even if you didn't see the poster, So, I'm like sitting there going, okay, it's the typical new guy thing. And I don't want to get too far ahead, but the story of why he's in the military still, I'm like, talk about fast track. Holy shit.
There's a lot of things that happen with convenience at the forefront. This is a kind of movie, and most canon movies are this way, where you really don't want to have the brain set in the on position when watching them. And the beginning of this movie, as I said, is mostly about, these army guys are to lead a convoy to lead the general's daughter off base. They needed and some weapons. Yeah, for some reason, at the same time, they thought it was a good idea to put the colonel's daughter in with a bunch of weapons that possibly could get stolen by a rogue band of ninjas.
She needed protection, so they got weapons all over.
It makes even less sense as the plot goes on that they put her in that spot too.
Well, yeah, because they talk about real early on how they've had troubles with bandits all along.
Raiding their weapons. It's like, you know what? Let her drive off in the freaking convertible. She's gonna be fine.
They are on an army base. They don't have a fucking helicopter. What the fuck? So they lead her off base. They're driving this convoy. Michael Dudikoff, who is basically like the action version of Tom Matthews, looks almost exactly the same for my money. He's driving one of the various vehicles loaded with weaponry, unbeknownst to him, of course. And they get stopped by, shocker, a bunch of bandits. And then in the midst of them trying to hijack all these weapons, all of a sudden the trees just become lousy with fucking ninjas. There's goddamn ninjas everywhere. And of course, because he's a silent type, that Dudikoff at some point is going to bust out and start kicking people in the face. Glenn, now let's talk about the Dudikoff. Before we get into his interactions with the ninjas, let's talk about the Dudikoff as a character in American Ninja, the man whose date of birth is unknown. His parents are unknown. His next of kin, unknown, because he has amnesia. Big shocker to everyone. What'd you think of Joe Armstrong, the American Ninja, in this, Glenn?
Well, he's got a chip on his shoulder, doesn't he? Mr. I'm too cool to talk to anybody else. I'm just going to sit here and fix engines. Too good to play hacky sack.
Well, that one dude was totally giving him busting his balls for not playing goddamn hacky sack.
He did look at the hacky sack as if the guy had actually thrown his balls at him. So
I know. Thank you.
Way to make friends there, Joe.
It's like, okay, I get it. He doesn't want. Thank you, because I get that he's doing the wild one type thing, and he's trying to act all cool, and I'm a loner and stuff like that. Throw them the freaking sack back. What the fuck? Why are you gonna be? I thought he was being a tremendous dick in the beginning.
But Scott, he's a bad boy that's been shipped from foster homes and reform school his whole entire life.
Oh, please.
But of course, his amnesia doesn't tell him. He gets glimpses of this, but he is a white man trained in the mystical arts of the ninja by an Asian teacher. What a shocker. But let's move on, folks. So Dudikoff, who is this enigma, which you obviously know through watching tons and tons of these exploitation chopsaki flicks, exactly what his character is. It's nothing new. Nothing in this movie is unpredictable. This is the kind of movie you put on and passively watch and enjoy because it's familiar to you. And at the same time, it's goofy enough that you have a lot of fun with it. So Dudikoff eventually blows his top and starts kicking all the bandits' asses, starts dodging all the ninjas, catching arrows in mid-fucking air. I don't know what designates a badass more than a dude that can literally catch arrows in the fucking air, but he eventually takes Judy Arnson and runs off in the middle of the woods. And in one of the best lines in this entire movie, the head ninja looks at one of his lower ninjas and goes,
"He possessed great skills."
For laughing at that. I feel horrible for laughing at that.
Let's not forget Dudikoff. Out of all of his moves throughout this entire film, his top move, he must have took the art of diving to the ground kung fu, because he dives to the ground sometimes without needing to dive to the ground, like to avoid a truck that was nowhere near him. I mean, I couldn't believe that. You watch him during that fight before he takes her off into the forest, and at one point he dives to the ground. And I'm like, why are you diving to the ground? There's nobody shooting at you or anything. And here comes the truck, and it drives around him. And I'm like, dude, what the hell?
Well, like typical canon ninjas from all of these movies, they're all just a bunch of bumbling fucking morons run by some rich white guy who has, for some reason, some ninja training facility in the middle of fucking nowhere.
I just love the fact that there's ninjas, man. That first opening scene when Dudakov's driving the convoy, leading him through, and there's this one goddamn ninja just standing out in the middle of the fucking jungle.
Just another day.
It's like, not in Japan. We're not in Japan.
Wasn't it the Philippines? This takes place in the Philippines.
Philippines.
It was in the Philippines, you know. So it was just this jungle, this scenery, this vista of beautiful tropical lowland, and a fucking ninja in black garb just standing there like he has a perfect sense, like he's supposed to be there, looking at me like I'm the asshole, like I'm the one that has a problem. Watching the convoy driving by, and then of course, you know, he raises his arms, and then the other ninjas start dropping down the trees, like you said, Derek. Then the place just gets lousy with ninjas.
It is. It's just everywhere. And the funny one thing that made me almost die laughing was that, you know, after, you know, the whole confrontation is wrapped up and Dudakov is run off with the colonel's daughter into the middle of the woods, and he's cut her dress up and broke her heels so that she can remain
in the stone. Sorry.
Yeah, right.
And all that shit. They get back to the base, and he saves the daughter, but gets court-martialed, and they start talking about the aftermath of this. And one dude goes,
Jackson!
Yes, sir.
Did you get a chance to check the wounds?
Yes, sir, I did.
What the hell did you find out?
Have you ever heard of ninjutsu, sir?
What's that?
The secret art of assassination.
Yeah, of course I have.
Well, according to witnesses' testimony and evidence, this massacre was the work of ninjas.
Obviously.
That was Jackson. God, that was so beautiful when he said, well, sir, have you ever heard of ninjutsu? The secret art of assassination? Because like, by this time, he's like, well, yeah, of course I have. Well, this was done by ninjas, sir.
Oh my God, Seth! What did you think when just so nonchalantly they're just like, "Oh, of course, it has to be ninjas."
Well, I mean, they must have had every previous encounter with ninjas, because nobody's surprised at these Filipino jungle ninjas jumping out of fucking palm trees. What kind of cover does a palm tree give you? You hide behind a pair of coconuts. I love the brief description of ninjutsu every time they say it. The art of assassination. Every time they say ninjutsu, it has to be followed up with it. But yeah, they play it cool with ninjas. Oh, what the fuck? Ninjas? Okay.
It has to be, of course. And of course, they know about this, but don't tell any of their soldiers that there's a possibility of a ninja hijacking.
No, they were this quiet.
We don't want to tell our army, who may have to come into contact and combat ninjas.
I mean, roaches or vermin or mice, or in the Philippines, you get ninjas. I mean, it happens, you know. They just kind of just don't. It's like in the South, you know, when you get the big water bugs, those big ass cockroaches. Oh, we just don't talk about deer. Hold on a second. Let me smush him with my shoe. Hold on.
Well, in typical action movie conceit, of course, they get back to the base. Michael Dudakov isn't thanked for bringing back the colonel's daughter. He's basically almost court-martialed, and he's set to be like a lowly runner. He has to take things back and forth to places. And for some reason, the head boss of this island who runs all these ninjas, of course, there's got to be some dude that runs an entire team of ninjas for no reason whatsoever. He wants Michael Dudakov dead because he possesses great skills. And so for some reason, all of the heads of this army base are in cahoots together to try and off Dudakov. But in one scene, when we had talked about Steve James being in this movie, and if you know who Steve James is, you're cool. because Steve James is one of my favorite action dudes. He's this force of fucking nature. The guy is humongous. He's ripped like a motherfucker, and he looks like he could rip the head off of anyone that comes near him. So there's a scene in which he heard that because the word around the block is Dudikoff flew off the handle and got a bunch of their army dudes killed in this standoff with the lousy ninjas in the middle of the forest. And so Steve James, who's the martial arts expert of this base, decides to have a sparring match with him. And Dudikoff shames him completely. And of course, they become best friends.
This makes no freaking sense when this happens too. Okay. this I mean, none of this makes sense, but first of all, it doesn't make sense that everybody blames Dudikoff. I know his name is Joe Armstrong. I'm calling him Dudikoff. That everybody blames Dudikoff for this. It's like, oh yeah, Dudikoff got us all killed. Wait, no, he did it. I think weren't there still enough witnesses left to say that's not what happened or anything like that, because it's not every single army guy that got killed. It's like 4.
And it was the colonel's daughter who actually started everything by running off.
And it was the colonel's daughter that started everything by running off. That guy's. There's lots of witnesses. There are lots of witnesses that are still alive. That's it. No, he's not kicking ass and everything. And then she gets all bitchy about it, because she's a woman written into an 80s action movie. And then the word gets around. Yeah, he's the bad guy in this, not the ninjas, not the killers. No. This guy, this is the bad guy in this, and it's like a blood vendetta when he's ready to beat the shit out of Dudikoff. But Dudikoff's like, as you say, he like the very playful thing. He has the whole thing with the bucket on his head and everything, and they do this great action sequence, and then Dudikoff puts out his hand, and they come up there, and he says like, "All right, everybody, Joe's all right." Wait, what? This makes okay. First of all, it makes sense for you to blame him. And then second of all, why is he suddenly all right? Because he could kick your ass? He might just be an ass. Still kick your ass.
Well, he respects the skills because he obviously could tell that he was trained in the art of ninjutsu, the art of assassination, which as Mark had described before, is mostly rolling around on the ground and avoiding things.
I think what we have to do is step back and get into the 80s mentality of this sequence. Okay, because you're right, Scott. It is absolutely absurd. However, if we were to inject ourselves into that paradigm for a second now. Okay, so Marines have died. People are dead. That happens. And then we blame the Dudikoff. And you are right, Scott. It's not Joe Armstrong. It's Michael Dudikoff. This is his actual life. It's an autobiography. So we can refer to him as Dudikoff. Everybody knows who we're talking about. Okay. So he gets blamed for it. And sure, the whole scenario is stupid. However, I feel that trying to find the good and all the bad. Steve James and Dudikoff have a chemistry like between them, and I think it actually falls down to the scene because when I was watching it again the other night, I kind of thought the same thing. I was like, wow, this is just horrible and stupid. But when you see them fight, because Steve James comes up and he's a heel. You don't like him, and it's psychological because of the way they've set the movie up.
He's almost like a foot taller than him too.
You don't like him. He's intimidating. He's a heel, and he goes to bully Dudikoff. Well, Dudikoff, he passes it off. He just uses the momentum against Steve James, takes him down, uses the bucket, humiliates him, but he offers his hand and helps him up. What he has done is what has happened psychologically is they have taken the face and the heel dynamic and they have completely overturned it now because you don't know what to do. You wanted the Dudikoff to kick his ass, but no, he extended his hand and held him up. It was like, well, what the fuck is this? Well, now all of a sudden they're friends. And now is giving you that 80s buddy cop mentality for the rest of the film, because I will say the chemistry between Dudikoff and James on screen, like I really love those characters. Like seeing both of them together, when you've got Armstrong and Jackson together, it's a team. I mean, it's like Tubbs and Crockett. It's just one of those, you see one, you see the other, and they're friends, and you feel good. And that's the mentality you need to go with. So, Scott, don't be a dick.
Show respect, goddammit, Scott Davis.
You're sleeping on my playground, okay?
I get the 80s when turning your brain off for 80s action is, especially from Cannon Group, is absolutely agree with you. I'm just pointing out, I cry for this day that actually has way too much scrutiny when it comes to films like this. But I do have to bring up how that doesn't make any sense.
God, it's people like you that keep me grounded. Because just imagine people like me out here, and people like me were running the show.
Well, I think you bring up a real good point is that this movie in general, I think it's kind of funny that we're going to sit and really like pick apart these movies, because these aren't movies you're supposed to really posit too much. Like, think about they're movies that are breezy. You're supposed to just go into them, watch a bunch of, high kicking nonsense and hijinks, and just walk away having fun. Now, Mark, when all is said and done, did you have a good time with this movie?
Oh, it's a blast. I totally agree that Dudikoff and James have fantastic chemistry. They have that buddy cop chemistry that you got in the 80s. That unlikely, these two characters, the way they paint them in the beginning, you're like, there's no way they're going to be together. And, pretty soon, oh yeah, just, one fight. Yeah, we're good. It's like, and you're like, okay, that's how they roll. And this film's a lot of fun, man. I used to watch this one so many times. It was such cable fodder. It was always on cable somewhere. And I used to watch it constantly, and I forgot how many times I watched this film till I watched it again for the podcast. And as I'm watching, I'm like, holy crap, I remember all these scenes and that music. I'm listening to the music going, holy crap, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990 totally ripped off the score to American Ninja.
Well, let's be honest, Mark. The music in this movie is as stock music as it fucking gets.
Oh, yeah.
This music could have been lifted from 15 other action movies and just laid straight on top of this thing.
I think Canon had its own library of stock music that it just said, okay, action movie, let's see, Ninja Track 1, Ninja Track 2, and action scene 3. There we go.
Just wait till the next American Ninja.
Well, I think you gotta disregard that kind of stuff with this one, because on a whole, I thought this movie had a lot of really decent action scenes. Some of them weren't the greatest, and they usually involved Michael Dudikoff. If you ever noticed, and I don't know if you guys noticed this as much as I did, but during a lot of the action scenes, because there was, obviously, we had made reference to this ninja clan that are on the island, and there was this big bad ninja. I believe his name was Black Star, and he was, supposed to be this ninja from the old land, and he's this dude that just like is a cat with 9 lives who just never dies, and he's just a total badass. There's this entire sequence in which we finally get introduced into the training ground for the ninjas. Of course, the big bad in this movie has an entire kind of like Enter the Dragon, where you walk in and there's just ninjas training 24 fucking hours a day, all the fucking time. At some point in my life, I would love, if I were rich enough, to just have a lot of land where I had ninjas training all the time, where I could walk out and I would just sit and be able to watch ninjas.
Welcome to beautiful Astro Radio Z Ninja Training.
Welcome to the Astro Radio Z Ninja Training Facility. Come watch the neon blue ninjas kick each other's faces. Watch the yellow ninjas scale up rope.
It would have to be higher quality than what we saw in this movie, though, right? Because it was just a bunch of monkey bars and seesaws that they were running across.
Yeah, they went down to the local park.
Isn't that kind of why we have the show that's actually called American Ninja Warrior, and it is a bunch of monkey bars and seesaws on that show as well?
Did you notice? Hilarious. Shit is hilarious. And my main thing is that the action sequence in this sequence where you go in and you see this training ground, Black Star puts on a demonstration, and this happens in both the movies we're going to talk about tonight, where he just wholesale starts killing dudes. Like, for some reason, it's okay for these guys to like build these or take the time to train these ninjas, and they literally they're training all day long, every day. They recruit these guys, but it's okay for one guy to come in if there's somebody with money to demonstrate how easily they can be killed.
That's what I loved about it. Just look at our killing machine ninjas and how easily they're disposed of. Aren't you impressed?
This, unfortunately, isn't the only series where you've gotten the main head boss guy just going about killing his lackeys for no apparent reason outside of showing that he's the badass, but the rest of them, are fodder. It
seems kind of counterproductive, don't you think?
A little bit. What I love, you mentioned about the monkey bars and stuff. I love how there's that chase between the Dudikoff and Black Star, and how they deliberately go through instead of running around the swing set. The swing set with the spiked logs that swing on cables. Instead of running around it, the Dudikoff chases Black Star through this when they could have easily ran around this obstacle and meet Black Star at the end. No, he has to go through it as well.
Well, yeah, that was Dudikoff's backyard. He was familiar with it. He took him through it. He took advantage of the situation and led Black Star through his backyard.
We gotta talk about Dudikoff, because I think Dan, your biography stuff is hilarious. I know it's BS and I love Dudikoff. I love Dudikoff. Let me go on the record saying I am a big fan of this guy. I think he's great. And Dudikoff actually talks about how he became this action star, which was totally not planned. On the extras to the Avenging Force Blu-ray, which is an amazing movie, by the way, Avenging Force.
I want to watch it.
Oh, it's so good. And he's on there, and remember, he was not known for action stuff. He was known for comedy. Player in comedies. He did a lot of TV, and he talks about. He's just like, and they had this big, casting call for all these people, and they just liked my look, and all my friends are like, oh man, Duty's in an action movie. I can't believe Duty's doing this. And he really shouldn't have said this because it made
Duty?
Yeah.
That needs to be his book.
I can't think of a worse nickname possible.
That's his book.
Exactly. He should not have said that because it advertised his nickname was Duty. But he said,
I know Andrew Shearer is going to like that factoid.
But he was right there. It was not planned. And he went on the set. He was hired for, he could, read a line, and he had really good looks. He was very photogenic, and zero martial arts. And he was in the cast with people who did know martial arts. So they had to shoot around this. And thankfully, I'm fine with him not knowing much martial arts because I thought he carried the part well. But Sam Furstenberg is such an incredibly good action director. That stuff is blocked so well.
Okay, I don't know if I don't want you to blow Sam Furstenberg too much here.
He's a good he. My buddy Austin actually pointed it out to me when we were talking about Revenge of the Ninja. He says, "Look at that scene. That is covered, man." He shot it well enough where you're watching this and you're like, "Freaking Ninja." Why not? Yes. Yes. You know what? Yes.
Well, I'm not to jump too far ahead. There's a fucking sequence in the next movie where Steve James James and Dudikoff jump off of a fucking rock and land right in a boat. So you tell me how wonderfully blocked some of these scenes are.
I want that quote on when they release American Ninja, like in a few years, they'll re-release like a multi-pack or something. I want that quote from Scott. American Ninja. Why not?
Well, that's the Sam Furstenberg way. Seriously. I mean, the movies are light on logic.
It's a comic book.
Yeah, they're high on camp and fun. That's what really rides this movie. Now let's talk about the final epic fucking battle where Black Star and the ninjas are taking on the American Army force at the Big Bad's hideout. And Glenn, let's talk about Black Star and his secret weapon that he pulls out of fucking nowhere. Glenn, what did you think when all of a sudden a goddamn laser gun starts shooting all over the fucking place?
Yeah. That's a thing. Can't be more 80s than that. I remember when I was a kid, and I'm like, huh. And then as an adult, I was like, huh. So, yeah, it kind of like ruins a lot of the mystique of a ninja, where it's like, just gotta fucking why didn't you open with that?
Yeah. Why are you sneaking around all over the fucking place? Why didn't you just take that laser and mow over everybody?
Yeah, just done. It's it's what I call Voltron syndrome. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, just be the giant robot at the start with the huge sword, and you're done. Why are you fucking around with this? I'm going to throw these little stars at him. Maybe try to kick. No, laser. Just use your laser, dude. You're done.
Well, I guess that's what you call building to a climax.
Yeah.
So you got Black Star, who's shooting at Duty. I'm going to call him Duty for the rest of the fucking podcast. I don't know if I'll be able to, but I'm sure as fuck going to try. So Black Star is shooting at Duty with a goddamn laser gun. Then you got Steve James, who comes in guns ablazing, has to fight Roundy's Bolo Young, and is oily as fuck. And then fucking pulls out a goddamn bazooka and starts shooting it all over the fucking goddamn place. This final sequence, the final act of this movie, is classic Sam Furstenberg nonsense, and literally almost saves some of the middle section of this film that just goes through the numbers of your typical, like, Duty is this guy who's got to run and hide from the authorities because they all are trying to pin him for murders that ninjas are doing all over the place. And the only person that believes him is his good buddy who he humiliated in a fight in front of everybody, Steve James. And it all culminates in this huge ninja battle where all of a sudden Duty finds out his sordid past, in which he was a little boy that was adopted by this mystical teacher.
Our paths will meet again.
What do you mean?
Your karma and mine, they are connected.
Learns the secret of ninja magic. Of course he does. Of course he does. So this ending battle is literally, it's worth the price of admission. It's stupid. It's so ridiculously over the top. And it ends the movie at 1 hour and 20 minutes long. Victory! That's what I call a fucking goddamn movie, folks. Don't linger around. This ain't no 2-hour gimmick. This is a goddamn hour 25-minute movie. That's how you fucking do a movie. Sam Furstenberg, it's not as action blocky, that's for sure, because he doesn't know how to edit worth a pinch of shit. But he sure knows how to bring a movie in at 1 hour and 20 minutes. So that's a big thumbs up for me in this. So let's go ahead and let's wrap this one up and give our final thoughts on this movie and anything you think we missed that we need to talk about with this. Seth, we're going to start with you. Final thoughts on American Ninja.
I'm mad we never got a spinoff of Duty and Steve James doing their little gimmick wrestling match that they talked about for money. I would have loved to have seen their pro wrestling tour across the Philippines.
I love that. Steve James is not. He just wants to sit and make some paper and exploit and do a good old wrestling gimmick. But Duty's not having any of it.
Duty was not impressed by that idea. No, the movie's a blast. Just total cheeseball, camp, fun. Turn your brain off. It doesn't linger, like you said. There's a fucking laser gun. Why not? And Black Star. Why is he Black Star? Because he's got some makeup on his face. So the movie works for me totally. Big thumbs up.
Yeah, he's got some bullshit tattoo on his fucking eyelid. There he is. Somebody should came up. Hey, you got some bullshit on your face. You might want to get that off there.
Like, good luck getting a tax-paying job in the future.
Welcome to the service industry or washing dishes, folks. Scott Davis, final thoughts.
Oh, it's fantastic. I love this movie. It's of course I'm kidding around, joking around about how it doesn't stand up to scrutiny and everything like that because, well, I did a whole web series about stuff like that. But yes, it's great. I mean, it is total canon. What I love about this movie is that I mentioned before how you had different types of action movies in the 80s. There was a trend of a very different kind of action movie that this was kind of following, and that was a very grim, revenge-themed action movie. Films like The Exterminator, which also had Steve James in it, incidentally, which were just Death Wish 2, which were really sadistic and everything. This one has like 10 times as many bodies, but it is so goofy. It is so silly. It's basically what this movie is that it was like a G.I. Joe cartoon come to life where we said, man, don't you wish G.I. Joe was just a lot more badass? I mean, they've got all this stuff and they don't do anything with it. Well, here comes a movie. They didn't have all the stuff, but they had all that spirit that you wish they put in those G.I. Joe cartoons, and they turned it into a great R-rated action movie, and it's just a lot of fun. I love American Ninja.
Yeah, I wouldn't even. At least now to our sensibilities, this I think would come out as a PG-13. There's really not much that makes this an R movie. There's the occasional blood. I think it's mostly just the level of violence. There's no nudity in this movie.
Yeah, but you check out the body count on IMDb, dude.
Well, but still,
14. I think they said.
Yep. Yeah,
it's harmless. It's not like you're watching. I would say this is far less harmless than a lot of the PG-13 action movies. In fact, these days, the ones where entire cities are getting wiped out and stuff like that. This is way sillier and way much better and a much higher spirits than that.
Mark, the movie man, go ahead. Your final thoughts on this one.
This was a lot of fun. Watched it a lot when I was a kid. Watched a lot of these type of action films when I was a kid because they were cable fodder and VHS fodder. And yeah, I looked at it today, even watching it, even with the body count, though, I'm watching it going, man, it's like, why is this rated R? I'm like sitting here going, even with the body count that they supposedly have, nothing's really that bloody. The action and the deaths are like if bullets actually hit people in A-Team, but not always, because some of the guys just would fall even if they weren't being shot at. Oh, it's very cheesy 80s action films, and it's so much fun because these films, people who criticize and shred these films, and I'm like, you realize they knew what they were making. People, they're not under some impression they're making some fantastical blockbuster, this is going to make me the next Rambo film. They know what they're making, and they're having fun, and you can tell it's got a lot of charm and a lot of spirit and just a lot of stuff that, you turn your brain off and you just enjoy the crazy because, and the coincidence. You get that wonderful 80s action coincidence where the guy who's the caretaker for the bad guy just happens to be the trainer of the Dudikoff. And you're just like, wait, what? Out of all the Singapore islands in all the world, they two ended up together on the same island. You know what I mean? So you got all kinds of crazy stuff like that you don't want to think about. You just enjoy it for what it is, which is a crazy action film where you get to see some very talented people make Dudikoff look really good in the action scenes.
Oh my God. Old Duty. Good old Duty. Glenn Bittner, go for it. Final thoughts.
Ninjas are the most ineffectual fighting force to ever be devised, apparently, if you go by this movie. Why anyone would have ever thought these were something to be feared or something cool, I can't imagine it. I mean, now, don't get me wrong. The Action Jackson man is, he's got muscles and he's awesome, which makes sense because seeing as he knew more martial arts than Dudikoff did. So, just not, I mean, I'm not going to say I hate the movie. It's a piece of 80s nostalgia for me. I mean, I remember watching it as a kid, along with, as I think Daniel mentioned, 88,000 other canon action films that were made. And I gobbled the stuff up. I did. Going back and rewatching it, it's a lot more fun watching it at 1.5 speed. And then watching it a second time at double speed. It makes the fights much better. So I would highly recommend watching it at super speed. It's great. So in that case, go for it. You can watch the whole movie in 36 minutes. And you don't miss anything with the amazing dialogue. So,
oh my God, Glenn, you're starting to sound like me. Watching can't watch anything if it's not 1.5 speed.
Exactly.
Let's round this out, Dan. Your final thoughts.
Like I said at the beginning, I'll bring it back around. I mean, this is a movie that was spoken with reverence on the playground at school for me. I mean, this is that perfect time period, 1985, with a video game. And if you doubt me, listen, just let me see if I can break this one down for you. He's driving a combo. So we're going to compare the movie with a video game. You're driving a combo. There's the convoy. So there's stage 1. You fight ninjas. There's stage 2. You run through the woods. There's stage 3. You have to jump your motorcycle over the fence to get out of the base. There's stage 4. Ninja training ground. There's stage 5. Fighting the Black Star as your final boss. There's stage 6. But when you get him down to low health, he pulls lasers out. So there's your... then you're back to back with the old guy and you're fighting, and then old guy disappears. You find out, holy shit, magic is real. This Korudetsu stuff was actually real. So then you have to fight some more, and then your final boss fight is on a fucking helicopter with a dude shooting a gun at you, and you're still just moving around, wiggling around, fighting him, and then it gets blown up with a rocket launcher from your best friend. Case closed. It's a fucking video game. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's a movie. So it's American Ninja. It's a classic. I mean, like I said, this is every fucking AAA video game that we have now. Metal Gear. I made a list. Ninja Gaiden Arcade, Shinobi, Ninja Gaiden NES, Final Fight, Streets of Rage, TMNT, Target Renegade, Bad Dudes, Double Dragon, Wrath of the Black Manta, Metal Gear, Mortal Kombat, and Street Fighter. There are plenty more. All owe something to this movie. And if it wasn't for this movie, we would not have, and the other movies that came before it. But American Ninja is the cool one because that's the one that has, my time and place, my paradigm when I was a kid. It was this movie. So yeah, I mean, 3 thumbs up for me. I don't know where the third one came from. We'll call it Ninja Magic.
We don't. Well, I definitely agree with all you guys, except for Glenn. Glenn's being a crotchety old fuck this episode for some unknown reason. What fun is? But
can I say something funny though? I'm sorry to interrupt again. And when he's talking to the old guy and he says, the old guy's like, Sai, Sin, Soy, like that, telling him about it. And they're contorting their fingers into that fucked up thing that ninjas do apparently in movies that gives them stuff. And then the old
it's the ninja magic.
Yeah, he says, follow the Bushido. And Joe's like, I will honor the code, father. I will follow the Bushido. Well, if you go to IMDb and click the goof section, the first thing says, Ninja do not follow Bushido.
Welcome to the world of Sam Furstenberg, folks. And with that, we're going to move on to the second movie of the night, American Ninja 2: The Confrontation, made in 1987.
He has been taught the mystic arts of war.
Sai.
He has mastered 1,000 years of secrets. He has learned the way of the ninja. Now, a soldier on a suicide mission. They have been sent to paradise.
Excuse me, ma'am. Wow.
To defeat a conspiracy that threatens the entire world.
Who set me up?
I said who? The lion.
Who's the lion?
He's a millionaire. He made his money on drugs. He's doing research.
The Super Ninja. The ultimate fighting machine.
Like a predatory tiger, who will feel no pain.
Miracles.
And know no emotion but hate.
It's ninja against ninja.
Tommy, the tower!
Together, they must destroy the most powerful criminal empire the world has ever known. He must defeat the most lethal assassin alive, and they must not fail. Michael Dudikoff returns as the American Ninja with Steve James in American Ninja 2: The Confrontation.
Now, I'm going to leave the plot synopsis of this one up to Mr. Mark the Movie Man, because pre-show, he really did a great job saying this. So, Mark, will you do the honors and tell the fine folks in Astro Radio Z-Land what is the plot of American Ninja 2: The Confrontation?
On a remote Caribbean island, Army Ranger Joe Armstrong investigates the disappearance of several Marines, which leads him to the Lion, a super criminal who has kidnapped a local scientist and mass-produced an army of mutant ninja warriors.
Yes. You heard that correct, folks. An army of mutant ninja warriors. Don't get too goddamn excited yet, though. That happens in the last 15 minutes of the movie. The rest of the movie is essentially Duty and Steve James show up in an island where they've been kind of commissioned to go there from the army because there's a bunch of Marines that are turning up missing. And the commander on this, of course, some island yet again, who looks like basically the most stereotypical 80s dude imaginable, with a Hawaiian shirt, green wife beater, cop mustache, fucking spiked mullet. This guy, you see him, you're just like, this can't be for real. Did this guy just walk out of Miami Connection? I'm not quite sure. Looked exactly like one of those dudes. But anyways, he has them come in order to figure out what's going on. I'm losing Marines left and right. I need some help. I was hoping I was going to get Marines, but no, I get Army Rangers. You guys, I guess I'll have to, put up with you guys. So they, for some reason, then get taken shown the town by these guys and get, bear with me, folks. How they did not see this coming, I have no idea. They take them out to go skiing in a boat and go swimming and scuba diving and all this other shit. And they all of a sudden get stranded on a beach somewhere where the engine just goes bad. And on this beach, all of a sudden, this beach is lousy with fucking ninjas all over it, goddamn. All the fucking ninjas come to this goddamn beach to fight fucking Duty and Steve James. And it is literally one of the funniest fucking goddamn sequences of that when they're riding this boat ride to go wherever they're going to go to do this. One shot, they're all wide awake, and literally with no transitional element or anything to tell you there was a span of time between one shot and the next shot immediately, they're all fucking asleep. It makes no sense whatsoever in continuity, but bear with me, supposedly some sort of time-space barrier had been broken and they all fell asleep. So they wind up on this goddamn beach and they start going into this ninja battle. Now, Glenn, did you not expect this turn of events where this beach was completely lousy with ninjas?
No, of course I expected it. Oh my God. It's so, I mean, not only do they not know what subtle is, they couldn't spell it. They wouldn't know it if it was, on a beach covered with ninjas. Yeah, no, it's so obvious what's going to happen when they go up here, especially when it's hey, the boat won't start. What? Oh my gosh. Well, let's just go for a swim. Apparently faster than a fucking dolphin, because those three guys are gone like instantly, like just disappeared. I mean, like they're freaking mermen and they just went down to Atlantis to hang out with Aquaman or something. Yeah, I mean, it is the least surprising thing ever.
Well, I mean, I know that they don't really stress the ninjas like art of stealth in these movies, but I mean, out of the only time when wearing multicolored ninja outfits wouldn't matter, all the ninjas then come in all wearing black, and I'm like, guys, broad daylight on an open frickin' beach. We see you coming.
How would we know they were ninjas any other way, Scott? My main thing was is that Duty and Steve James start battling these ninjas, and all of these ninjas have katana swords. They sit and fight these guys. They're dropping their swords everywhere, and they never pick a fucking sword up. Dan, what the fuck is going on with these guys? All they could have done is just picked up the swords and start chopping people's heads off. Why? Why didn't they pick up a goddamn sword?
I guess is the terror of facing Michael Dudikoff one-on-one.
No, Dudikoff didn't pick up a goddamn sword.
He doesn't need to. He's Michael Dudikoff, Derek.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
No, I can say that, like, with the first movie, that was reverence. The reverence is gone in these. This is a shit show from title card to credit card. I mean, this thing is wonderful. I love it. Jesus fucking Christ, man. Yeah, once they hit the beach, and like Glenn said, ninjas are out there. And what's funny is I'm watching, I was like, oh, holy shit, ninjas are back. It just comes out of left field with the rubber swords, and they're just dropping swords left and right. Hell, Michael Dudikoff, what? He doesn't even use a sword to fight. He uses a wooden pole to take one of them down, and then the one uses a rope for another one or something. These are the most inept clusterfuck ninjas I have ever seen. Might as well have gotten Bo, Larry, and Curly to be professional assassins. They would have been a lot more effective.
I think you're dead on about that one. I think that's indicative of this entire movie. Like, the ninjas, of course, completely just fodder to be kicked in the face. I had spoken about a weird editing snafu earlier. There is one scene during a debriefing in which Steve James and Duty are standing in front of 80s mullet Marine.
Wild Bill.
80s Wild Bill Hickok. And they literally turn and start leaving. And they must have not had Duty to shoot that day, and they had a stand-in. They turn, the guy faces camera, looks into camera. Obviously not Dudikoff. Walks off screen, and in the direct next shot is Michael Dudikoff again.
He's a ninja, Bill. You never see him come and go. Okay.
Well, maybe it was the same. Maybe it was the guy who the original army jacket. Because when the first you see Dudikoff in this movie, he is wearing an army dress jacket that obviously is too big for him. The sleeves are just going over his hands, and it's like seriously puffy. It looks like
that's just because he's a ninja and he's partially disappearing. That's the ninja magic.
He's popping in and out of bodies. I mean, I had literally watched this shot multiple times. I'm like, that did not just fucking happen. They did not just use a stand-in, have him walk straight towards camera, and the guy looks in fucking camera.
Another one I thought was funny and that had nothing to do with poor cinematography because we know that just by watching this. But whenever they're on the beach and getting back to the beach fight, when Steve James's character first jumps on there, so Jackson is walking on the beach and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go look for him. So he's going to look for Armstrong and he sees a ninja. It's not, oh my gosh, there's a ninja, or oh golly gee willikers, look at there's a ninja fixing to attack. No, he sees the ninja and immediately squares off and kicks his ass. Like, this is just a day in the life of Steve James. It's like, baby, I'm going to Walmart and I'm gonna get some milk. And he walks out to the car, fights a fucking ninja. It's like, honey, are you okay? Yeah, baby, I just had to kick him. This is a day in the life for Steve James.
Yeah, this is just another fucking day. What I loved about this, and Mark, I'd love to hear your opinion on this, is when the ninjas start appearing. I mean, we haven't even got beyond this first action sequence with them on the beach. These ninjas got. Is that when Duty finally sees the fucking ninjas coming toward him, they're all running with their arms up in the air. like
it's too bad ninja. It's too bad ninja are silent. Otherwise, you could have heard them go rah.
they try to stealthily drop the net on him, but they don't have it quite ready yet, and he's out sooner than they expect. But he just grabs that net and pulls them both off. I'm like, how effective was that? I mean, they weren't stealthy at all. He saw his shot. These ninjas are supposed to be part of the mutant squad of ninjas, and these guys, I think, got the back into the genetic gene pool because these guys are worse than the ninjas in the first film.
Oh man, they're just ridiculous. And what ends up happening is, of course, they get away. They kick all these ninjas' asses. They jump from a cliff into the boat in one miraculous edit, and then get back and tell the 80s Wild Bill Hickok Marine that what's going on, sir. We think it's ninjas. And then he goes,
This is really beginning to get on my tits.
Seth, let's talk about the 80s Marine. What did you think of this dude?
He is a complete cartoon character as far as any type of authoritarian figure goes. He doesn't wear any outfit until 2/3 of the way through the movie. That's not just a beach attire. He yells about his tits when he's upset. His name's fucking Wild Bill. He lets everyone call him Wild Bill. And he's apparently the best friend to everybody because anytime you mention Wild Bill, there's just background shouting him, oh shit, Wild Bill! Wild Bill! It's like he's turned the entire Marine base into a goddamn frat house. Which for the record, I think is hilarious. I would love to party with Wild Bill.
He reminded me of like Goose's brother.
He totally looks like Goose.
Goose from Top Gun. I totally looked at him going, Goose? And I'm like, no.
It looks like, if Goose didn't die, spoiler alert, that's what he'd be doing. He'd be like rocking the desk at some Caribbean island army base. And, he'd be like sitting there and just like, complaining about his tits and like waiting to get home to Meg Ryan. That'd be it.
I am confirmed that. Well, it doesn't confirm it, but it confirmed my suspicions when I was watching it because I had the G.I. Joe Wild Bill who had a hat and a blue life preserver and a blue shirt underneath with a yellow scarf and the pants and stuff. Because whenever I saw the movie and I was like, holy shit, it looks so familiar. So checking IMDb and sure enough, it's rumored that character Wild Bill was modeled after the G.I. Joe character Wild Bill, who basically had the same role in the G.I. Joe canon. And so
you just know that was a movie that didn't get the rights to. You just know it. I mean, couldn't you just see that ever a G.I. Joe movie? I know there have been G.I. Joe movies. Let's pretend they don't exist. But if there ever was a live action G.I. Joe movie, you just knew that Canon wanted to make that movie.
Oh, I would rather see a canon G.I. Joe movie. day long. But no, that's
same here. They were the only people who could do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, these movies obviously are off of that mold, and the story of this one is seriously the exact same story transposed into a new environment. It's there's an island owned by some white boss who has a team of fucking ninjas. This time they're mutant ninjas that are the Marines that they're stealing, and they're biochemically modifying them like Captain America, like the Winter Soldier program.
This is even more like
ninjas. And then Joe is set up again for a murder. They have to prove his innocence
again.
And then about 53 minutes into this movie, he meets a love interest in a horrible sequence in which Duty and this love interest with the most cheese dick fucking music spout off a ton of nonsense about curing cancer with bio ninjas and a bunch of other fucking stupid nonsense. So really, this movie is the exact same movie. Only it's far more of a buddy cop movie with Steve James and Duty than the first one was, if you can believe that. Now, when we said, did this bother you that this was basically the exact same movie as the first one?
I didn't miss anything.
What speed did you watch this one at?
1.5. And most of it was 1.5. Some scenes I bumped it up to 2.0. But I mean, I've seen all of the American Ninja movies multiple times in the past too. So this was just refresher for me. And, obviously this one was just, refresher of the first one, for the most part, just in a different country.
Oh God! It's essentially all this fucking thing is.
It is the same movie, but it's done a little bit sillier because it's lower budget. Because instead of being in the jungles and all this stuff, now it's like in whatever back street of this country we got to film in, and then of course they add a lot of curveballs to the plot to make it more and more ridiculous, so as if to up the ante for the sequel. So this one just isn't about a rich guy who wants to fund a arms deal race with his ninja army. No. It's about a drug trafficker who is kidnapping army people and turning them in and using their DNA to genetically engineer a race of ninja warriors. I mean, that's goofy shit.
That's a major goofy shit. And again, we are shown another amazing sequence in which now Black Star's transposed for this other bad ninja, which I'll just call Big Bad Ninja. And another sequence in which we're shown, of course, the Lion, who's the big bad in this movie, the Lion, who has his own emblem that is basically everywhere in his own house.
Trademark his drug.
Yeah, he's trademarked his fucking place. And we are shown what's essentially a bootleg Bloodsport set where a bunch of ninjas, multicolored ninjas. I don't know if there is like a class system within ninjas in which, like you had said, Dan, before, where certain ninjas are white, certain ninjas are red, certain ninjas are black, certain ninjas are brown, whatever the fuck they are. But there's another sequence in which the big bad ninja has to demonstrate for a guy they're trying to woo him to put more money into this program. And the big bad ninja just starts killing all of his ninjas again.
Yep.
While the big bad guy's waving his arms and smiling like, this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted my mutagen ass ninjas to get their asses kicked by my number one lieutenant. See, and he's just holding his hands and grinning, looking at all the spectators with him. He's like, see, what did I tell you?
Look at my amazing ninja army. Oops, you just killed half of them. They're dead. Between this and the beach sequence, the vast majority of my ninjas are dead.
Don't forget.
Please fund my program.
Don't forget the epic bar fight with the paid help for the ninjas.
Oh God.
that wonderful bar fight where
he was like, oh,
it was like they looked and go, wait, I didn't break that piece of furniture yet. And someone would just run into it.
I mean, we know, well, I mean, by the way, but I mean, well, don't we kind of know that we're dealing with low rent ninjas? What's the first time we see ninjas in this movie? What's the first time we see them? It's the very, very beginning, before Dudakov's even off the plane. Beginning, and big fight in the bar, and then the guy just like clandestinely opens the back door, and like some bunch of ninjas pile in. It's like the guy was like the cool older brother. Underage kids he was sneaking into the movie. I mean,
they're all underage ninjas. They just want to get their drink on.
These are not threatening ninjas.
This place has a ninja infestation like the Philippines. Like, oh, we got those ninjas sneaking in here. Hold on, let me get my shoes and step on him.
Dude, I got the ninja spray. Let's just spray a little bit over here and over there. Oh my God. So of course there's a lot of hijinks where they're running around trying to prove innocence, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. They all know what's going on. There's some stupid subplot with a bunch of homeless kids and blah, blah, blah. None of it matters. Of course, it all culminates into this big climax in which Steve James shows up at this fucking budget blood sport set in a fucking leather outfit. In the 80s, Wild Bill guy literally becomes a cowboy and shoots his way into this place. And then almost immediately, Steve James rips his shirt off, and who can fucking blame him? Because the dude is fucking ripped. Everyone just starts punching each other in the face. Now, instead of there being a laser in this movie, the big bad ninja, because obviously the budget's shorter, for some reason pulls out a fucking shotgun. Now, Seth, describe to me how, in what world did ninjas utilize weapons like a shotgun?
In Duty's world. Also, he had a very limited amount of ammunition for this shotgun. It was 4 shells and he was done. And then I was half expecting him to just chuck it at Dudikoff, but the shotgun caught me so off guard. I was fucking losing it. I don't understand. Why didn't they just take his DNA to make these super mutant ninjas?
How else would they have gotten Duty onto that
random
island?
and random Marines?
Yeah,
it has to be random Marines.
Random Marines that are set up by this jackass Marine that just hides in the corner the entire movie.
Yeah, that's all he does. He's like, he literally doesn't even show up in the movie until halfway through.
I don't know, but luckily Steve James is there being Fred Williamson as Rambo.
The thing I like the most about... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, just saving the day with his thumbs up.
Oh my God, let me tell you, Steve James in this movie kills Steve James in American Ninja 1. This is obvious. This was right in the heyday of the main 80s action movies, because all of a sudden Steve James has one-liners left and right in this movie. Like every time he's kicking someone in the chest, he's got to pull out some stupid one-liner. The entire fucking movie. Scott, what'd you think of Steve James?
I loved Steve James because he brought out those gigantic Ginsu knives. They didn't look like swords. They didn't look like knives, and he had 2 of them. And he just started wailing around with them. They almost didn't look real. Okay, they really didn't look real, but he was just Ginsuing people left and right with that. And so, no, Steve James is awesome, and he was having the chemistry between him and Duty is much better this movie, and they have this camaraderie. So they have that bar fight scene together, and Steve James is like knocking people out, pile on him, and then he throws them all off with a bowling sound effect. James is awesome. He left us way too soon in this world. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it's depressing when you're looking up this movie and you realize, oh yeah, Steve James died in the 90s.
He died at 41. Yeah, at 41. Yeah, really sad.
That was watching this movie because he actually, I think, like I said in the first movie, his character, the way they build the character for that 80s, cheeseball movie style, did it very well in the first one. But I think this movie, we actually, for split seconds, interspersed in the movie, we get to see Steve James. I think he's actually himself in this movie. I don't think some parts he's not actually playing a character. I think he's being himself. The part that I really think that is whenever when he's getting the number from that girl.
Oh,
and she's like, she goes, call me. And he's like, yes. Little moments like that, that's totally just like, because you can tell whenever he's trying to act like Jackson. But then there's other parts, especially in this movie, where I think he was actually being himself. And that's the tragedy, because he seems like he would be like my best friend. He's like the kind of guy that you want to be friends with, that he would just be so cool to hang around with. And that's the tragedy of it, I think.
Well, you get to this point in this film, too. Actually, you look at the way Steve James is. He's immortal. I mean, he's not even trying to play like he's afraid of getting hurt. He's like, the series has suddenly become Steve James is the American Ninja. Duty almost takes a back seat to Steve James as far as his fighting, because you get the pylon scene where he dumps everybody off with the bowling, and almost anyone he fights, at no point do you believe at all he is going to get hurt. He's just smiling and he's like, yeah, come on, bat, 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 bat. And you're like, yeah, go Steve James.
He takes time to flex between each opponent.
Yeah.
Yes. Every single time you watch him in this movie and you're like, man, that guy would get his ass kicked so quickly, because his entire fighting style is to flex before and after every punch thrown.
There has not been that much unnecessary flexing since the volleyball scene in Top Gun.
Regardless, Steve James rules. And of course, we have this ridiculously over the top, stupid action scene at the end where for some reason, the guy who had given his scientific secrets over to the Lion decides to blow up the entire bootleg Captain America Super Soldier program, and the entire place goes up in flames. The end. So American Ninja 2, for my buck, not as good as part 1, but still just as fucking goofy and just as fucking light. And I gotta say, for stupid 80s action movies, a big thumbs up from me. Dan, when all is said and done, give your final thoughts, your thoughts on American Ninja 2.
Right in line with you. I mean, it's not as fun. It's not as I'd said before, the reverence is out the window. I mean, that, the first movie, that was it. That's its own, it has its place on the mantle. This one is just fun. It's almost a complete retread of the first one, and yet completely different. And a broken record, just like the first one, it's a video game. Only this time they went even more. Think about it. Metal Gear, Fox died, the Genome Soldiers, and then all of a sudden you've got a cyborg ninja that was Gray Fox. And now look at American Ninja 2. What do you have? Mutant ninjas that they're making. I mean, it just... Seriously, it's a thumbs up. Just freaking watch it. Steve James just being cool, and Michael Dudikoff. Oh yeah, and we get a little more ninja magic whenever he's like walking when they're doing the assault on the Georgia Welcome Center at the interstate, and he's like going in the stairwell, and he just all of a sudden sits down and contorts his fingers into that fucked up thing, and then it has a flashback, and then all of a sudden this firework goes off in front of him. He's like, Korodetsu, yes. And then all of a sudden he's got the ninja magic, but we never get to see him do it. But it was there. It's a thumbs up, and watch it and enjoy it. It's great.
I love that you brought up the fact that, of course, we have to have a flashback sequence of all the stock footage from part 1 explaining the backstory of Joe Armstrong yet again. I had a witchcraft flashback to all the times we had to watch that one fucking shitty blood pouring out of the mouth sequence over and over again for 6 movies. I wonder how many times they're going to milk that fucking gimmick through this series.
Oh, God.
I'm guessing every single movie. So, Glenn, final thoughts on American Ninja 2.
Yeah, watch American Ninja 1. and you have seen American Ninja 2, minus the laser, unfortunately. So you don't get Laser Ninja or whatever it is in Japanese. I've forgotten now. But yeah, I mean, it's traditional 80s popcorn action silliness. So if that's your thing, grab a tub of popcorn and flex in front of a mirror and watch this movie.
I hope you were doing that while watching this, Glenn.
That's like every day, all day.
Oh, of course. Mark the movie man.
Yeah, it misses a step as far as any type of story that may have been more coherent in the first one. But at the same time, we're talking 80s sequels here, which 90% of the filmmakers out there had no idea how to do a sequel. So in this one, they just winged it. It felt like they just came up with a reason to get James and Duty together so they could fight really poor ninjas. I mean, these guys were worse than the first one and are supposed to be more advanced. I'm not sure in what way, but it's still fun.
They're special, Mark. They're special ninjas.
They're special ninja. They are special, all right. But it's still got the spirit. It's still got a bit of the charm. The chemistry between James and Dudikoff help move this film along, because those are the two people you actually care about. You give a rat's ass about anyone else in this movie. You just want to see these two beat up a bunch of low rent ninjas for 90 minutes. And that's what you get for the most part. You actually, I think you get a little more action in this one than in the first one. But yeah, it's what it is. It's 80s action camp. And it's still entertaining at this point, though, like I said, it does miss a step a bit.
Scott Davis.
Love it. It's a goofy little movie, and it's, as a kid, here's the one that I have not seen this movie probably since the 80s. I'd seen the original American Ninja a bunch, but I've never this one since the 80s, and I remembered that when I saw it like about 5 times within like a few months time, that this movie was better than the first. Well, watching it again, no, it's not. It's not at all. But it's got enough fun about it. It seemed like, okay, it was done cheaply. It was done as a follow-up. It was done as a cash-in. I'm fine with that. It's, how can you can't really get too sanctimonious exploitation film, and I thought it had a lot of fun to it. I thought Michael Dudikoff and Steve James were having a blast in this film. I liked that they filmed the big battle was seen to be in the corridors of like an old high school, and where Duty is like meditating in like the stairwell. Not enough evil masterminds let you do that now, and I just thought that this movie was a blast from beginning to end. So, okay, it's not as good as the first one, I guess. But you know what? I'm cool with it. I think I'm going to probably be watching it again really soon, actually.
I probably will be as well. Last but not least, Mr. Seth Fallon.
This one makes me wish that I encountered ninjas in everyday life. Because, I mean, it would be like, a bit of an inconvenience coming home from Walmart. Like, I think it was Dan that said it. And just encountering some shitty ninjas. But you take out half a dozen ninjas, that's an ego boost, Give you a little swagger for the rest of your day, put a little spring in your step, and that would be cool. Especially because even when these ninjas hit you with their weapons, they're completely ineffective. Like the blow dart.
Rubber.
He hits Dudikoff in the hand with a blow dart. Apparently it's not poison, so what's the point? But no, it's not as good as the first one, if we can talk about these movies in a sense of being good movies. But I have just as much fun with this one. It's goofier. The chemistry between Dudikoff and Steve James is amazing. And it's just a fun cheese ball flick. I mean, it's American Ninja 2. It's fun.
Can you even fathom, boys, that we still have 3 more American Ninja movies to watch?
Yeah,
the fact that there's 5 of these movies just blows my fucking mind.
We get some new blood in the next one, so
Oh, I've never seen any of the other ones, so this is all a first time thing for me.
Oh, see, I haven't seen.
I'm excited about this because I loved these first two movies. I thought these were great fun.
Oh.
I've seen 3. I haven't seen 4 or 5.
I started watching 5 a while back during the Turkey Challenge, and then that's how I think Dan and I started talking about putting American Ninja on the board for this year.
I binged all 5 of them. It was almost a year because I think it was like last February or March where I binged the entire American Ninja series. And I didn't know you seen them all, Derek.
I have not seen them all, so I'm looking forward to this, and I can already tell you 2 movies in, this blows Vice Academy out of the goddamn water. Completely out of the goddamn water. This may be the happiest Derek has ever been doing these goddamn franchise episodes, especially compared to last year. Holy fuck. And the fact that we gotta see the new thing here, folks, on Astro Radio Z is we no longer are complaining about witchcraft movies. Because thankfully right now nobody's talking about making any more of those fucking pieces of shit.
Well, way to go.
15 million goddamn Puppet Master movies, though.
You've got a new Evil Bong movie coming out, too, Derek.
Yep. Yep.
I was waiting on Derek to be like, fuck off, Daniel. But then immediately Mark comes in like, yep.
That's because Mark has a big boner about talking about Evil Bong on this podcast for some unknown reason.
No, just my sight.
Nope, you got a boner. You got a huge boner. It's just raging at a good 2 inches. Just fucking so hard.
Thank you for giving me some credit, Derek.
So here, I don't know, folks, if you're aware of this, but we have a new segment here on Astro Radio Z, which Mr. Daniel Edenfield, that's with us right now, has so graciously decided to do for us. So right now, I'm going to introduce you to Walmart bottom shelf DVDs.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and I like watching movies, and I like looking at racks. And when I like watching movies, I like going to the bottom rack. And therefore, this little segment, I guess you could call it like the bottom rack. I went to Walmart the other day, which is no big surprise, I guess, for a lot of people. But when I go to Walmart in the electronics department, I like going into the movie section, looking at the new movies that came out, and I happen to see on the bottom rack a couple of movies that look pretty cool. And I noticed that I do this a lot, very frequently. I will go to Walmart whenever I look at the movies. I don't look at the top shelf or anything like that. I always look at the bottom shelf. The cover art's a lot better, and then I started noticing that a lot of these movies aren't necessarily very good. I never really made the connection that I guess a lot of them are indie films, which I mean not to say an indie film can't be good, but you know, they're bottom shelf movies, kind of like the bottom shelf liquor, I guess. Regardless, here's a new segment. The bottom rack, bottom shelf, whatever. We got some bottom shelf movies. So the first one I wanted to give you, and I didn't give a preview beforehand. I've already seen this movie, but I figured I'd go ahead and do it this way. Let me tell you about Werewolves of the Third Reich. Now, for anyone that knows me, when you read the title, Werewolves of the Third Reich, you got me, okay? I'm compelled to watch this movie. The title alone compels me to watch this. So on the cover of the DVD, you've got, of course, up in the title of the film up at the very top with really cool font, and then underneath it, you got a profile shot of half of a human and the other half is a wolf man in a Nazi SS uniform. And of course, her little tagline is, let's see if I can zoom the picture a little bit. Okay. Half werewolf, half Nazi, total terror. And again, all right, so this is just the cover of the DVD. Flip it over on the back. Let me give you a brief synopsis from IMDb. In Germany, at the height of the World War II, a ragtag group of American soldiers discover Dr. Mengele's diabolical plan to create an unstoppable army of Nazi werewolves. Okay, how can you screw this up? See, that's right now, just from the cover, half man, half werewolf, all Nazi, total, or half Nazi, I guess. They say he's half Nazi. Looks like a whole Nazi to me. Anyway, total terror. You know what? I'm down. I'm going to watch this flick. And I watched it. I posited the question earlier, how can you screw this up? Well, I guess somebody found a way. No, that's a little too harsh. All right. I try to stay as positive with this as I can, but this is not a very good film. And the reason that I say that is because I come at it from a storytelling standpoint. Now, kudos to Andrew Jones. It was directed by Andrew Jones, writer Andrew Jones. Stars Annabelle Lanyon, Lee Baines, Susie Francis Garton, and a whole bunch of other people that I'm just too lazy to go look up. But regardless, this is an indie flick, and now it was done in the UK. This is done by, looks like a company, as I looked them up, who's done quite a few films. So first of all, the movie is done. You have released your movie. So kudos to you. Congratulations, because, I mean, that is almost a damn near impossible feat. However, what disappoints me with this is that the cover is and the tagline and everything is a little misleading as to what actually happens in the movie. Movie opens up in a bar with some kind of goofy little scenario where an SS soldier comes in and you see three normal people. I say normal. You see three plainclothes people just sitting around a table talking, and they talk strange. You'll notice this throughout the film is that their accents are a little strange, and I'll touch on this in a minute. So after they talk, an SS soldier at the bar happens over here, then walks over, sits down. He notices one of them's nervous, and they start jaw-jacking, and you know immediately what's going to happen. The SS soldier is going to start provoking him, say something. He's going to try to rat him out because you know something nefarious is going on. And they end up dying. Somebody gets shot, people get shot, and they leave, blah, 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 all the while with these terrible accents. Well, this is why. The terrible accents comes from a person in the UK, so a person with a naturally UK English accent, trying to sound like a Yankee accent. And when I say Yankee accent, I'm not saying it, like a damn Yankees with their accent. I'm saying like a Yankee accent, like I can't even explain it. It's all like a 50s cartoon or, 40s Bugs Bunny cartoon. Yeah, you see, when I was over there, I figured we'd come over and take out the Nazis, see? All right, now, you take that, but make your native tongue be English and then try to sound like that, and it sounds weird. That's this movie. That's because a lot of the characters in this movie are supposed to be, quote, using my quotey fingers, Yankees. They're supposed to be Americans, so they talk with an American accent. So it is kind of misleading. Anyway, when I said misleading, that's the whole movie. Is like, this is, some people would say a ripoff. This is an homage to Quentin Tarantino in Inglourious Bastards. This is basically Inglourious Bastard. It wants to be Inglourious Bastards, and it also wants to be a werewolf movie. And unfortunately, it doesn't mesh very well. The werewolf does not show up until maybe an hour and 10 minutes into the flick, where they even, now throughout the film, you'll have mentions of Dr. Joseph Mengele and I forget her name, Ilsa Koch. What is it? This whatever. You've heard of her, like the bitch of Buchenwald, because they actually mention that. Anyway, it's got a lot of celebrity celebrity Nazis in it, but it just it's just boring. It's a slog, man. I mean, it stylistically, like I said, is trying to be like Tarantino with the Inglourious Bastards. You can tell it's shot on video. That's not a knock against it. I'm just saying the stylistic choices for the film were good, and I see what they were trying to do. But what really made this not cool is the fact that it's just werewolves of the Third Reich. Where the fuck are the werewolves, man? That's the whole reason I'm watching this film, is I want to see werewolves of the Third Reich. And from the cover of it and stuff, you're thinking, well, either this is, maybe it's Nazis that are part of where, you're basically thinking a World War II version of Dog Soldiers. That's probably the best way I could explain is when I look at the cover, that's what I'm thinking. I want a World War II version of Dog Soldiers, and that's not what I got. And that probably is why I feel the way I do about this film. There was a really good scene that I do have to mention this. There is a scene where Hess, SS Officer Hess, who goes into the doctor doing the research on the werewolf program and whatever. And I'm not going to get into it. I'm just going to tell you, don't even worry about watching this movie. But this one scene was actually cool. So if you do watch it, there was a scene that was very cool where Hess is sitting in a chair talking with the doctor, telling him his family's going to be fine because you're going to kill yourself. And the doctor's like, what? And Hess is like, you were going to take that gun, you're going to put the barrel in your mouth, and you're going to pull the trigger. And it's just one of the, like, that whole scene was very heavy and very, very effective. That was, and the fact that I'm still thinking about it means, I mean, that was probably the best scene in the entire movie. Obviously, it was the most memorable. That was, in fact, I said don't watch the movie. If you do watch this movie, at least watch that scene because you will appreciate it just the entire time where he's telling him if that doctor doesn't kill himself, Hess is going to kill him, and then he's going to go and kill his wife, and then he's going to go and kill his daughter, and then he's going to take over his possessions and his land and everything. However, if the doctor kills himself, then he will spare the doctor's wife and spare the doctor's daughter. And it just, that whole sequence, it might be 5 minutes long of that doctor just debating, and you can see just the sheer agony in his face while he does it. So anyway, that was a very good scene. But on the whole, it was just not good. It's Werewolves of the Third Reich, more like Werewolves of the Third Reich, because it just, the cover is very misleading. The cover art is freaking awesome, and unfortunately, the movie is not. And the fact that there might be two werewolves, but there's no fur on them. They don't even look like werewolves. As a matter of fact, their masks, I have the masks that they use. You could buy them. There's like those little half-faced things with vampire fangs. There's the mask, so they cut the fangs off and just put the mask on there so it gives them, pronounced brow and eyebrow and nose bridge features and stuff. It just, anyway. That was the bottom rack. Werewolves of the Third Reich. I can't, well, either way. If you watch it, you were warned. If you don't watch it, you haven't really missed anything. If you are a filmmaker, watch it, you could learn something. But on the whole, I might try to avoid it. So anyway, that's the bottom rack. And stay tuned. Next time, I'll give you my preview of it before I actually watch the movie. So who knows what we're going to have. I'll just have to wait till my next trip to Walmart to find out. So thanks a lot. See you.
Welcome back, folks, from that thoroughly engrossing segment. Now, this is the portion of the show where my guests shamelessly shill the fuck out of you. Mr. Seth Powlin, shill for my audience, please.
Just want to say thanks for having me back for another franchise year. This one is looking far better than my previous 2 years.
I agree.
So, well, those started out okay too, but they quickly turned to shite. But anyway, you guys can find me at celluloidterror.blogspot.com and on YouTube and Facebook for all sorts of cult and horror film reviews and talk of that sort. Thanks.
Scott Davis.
Thanks for having me on again. I'm looking forward to it. Trying to get back into the swing of things. Got, a whole big weird schedule, and I'm trying to kind of the whole groove here. So slowly but surely it's going to happen. I'm looking anxiously movieocrity.com running again. Might even someday somehow get to do new episodes of my web series Movieocrity, which you can now check out at vimeo.com/channels/movieocrity.
Mark the Movie Man.
SpecialMarkProductions.com for all your Movie Man needs. From there, you can get to my YouTube channel, Special Mark Prod. I'm also on the Twitter, Special Mark Pro, Instagram, Special Mark Prod, and yeah, you get the point. We got the Spoiler Room podcast on our website. We're starting off this year with a new series that we do. Hadn't planned on doing one every year, but we are, and this year is going to be fun. It came from the 50s, where we'll be covering once a month. We'll be doing an episode that's covering a 50s monster film that people voted on what they wanted to hear us talk about. So we got some great stuff coming up there. And Derek, as always, it's a pleasure to be on your show, sir.
Love you, Mr. Mark the Movie Man. Glenn, you're up.
You can find me on YouTube if I ever decide to upload another video, which I probably won't do till November again. But you can find me there with Guy in a Bunker Productions. You can also find me on Facebook with Guy in a Bunker Productions. Check out my gaming podcast at gncast.com. That'd be the Adventure Party. Or just keep in touch with everything I do by following me on Twitter at Guy in a Bunker.
Last but not least, Mr. Daniel Adenfield.
It's been a hoot. Looking forward to another fine franchise episode. I'm sorry, I'll ramble on, but it's just awesome. I started out as a fan, and here I am, knee deep in the shit.
Welcome to my life.
You can find me.
I was such a fan that I took over the goddamn podcast, and here I am 6 years later.
It's just one internecine incestuous clusterfuck, I guess. I'm on here, and then I end up manipulating you guys to get you on my shit, and then I turn around and I'm right back at it. Yeah. Now I'm staring at the bottom rack at Walmart.
You can only blame yourself for that one, Dan.
You're right.
You bring up such gold ideas to me, I'm going to put it to the test. I'm going to make you fucking do it.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it is.
In the meantime, you can find me at nightkeep.com or on Twitter at the Nightkeeper. I mean, here. If you don't hear new music, it's because I'm staring at racks at Walmart.
I can think of a lot worse things to do. Well, folks, thanks for listening to another episode of Astro Radio Z. I'm going to cut this one off because it's really beginning to get on my tits.
You can find Astro Radio Z on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play, YouTube, and anywhere podcasts are found. Please help us by subscribing, rating the show, and giving us a review. It helps us get the show out to more listeners. Also, if you would like to hear more of the show and be a more active participant, join the Astro Radio Z Facebook group and page, and join the Patreon. For only $1 a month, you get bonus episodes. Thank you for listening. See you next week, Astro Zombies.